Good morning and welcome to the Teacher's Wake-Up Call with me, Madame la Prof. Oh my God, that's noisy. I had a very interesting conversation yesterday with some of my students. We started a little unit on, I'm making a lot of noise that is probably being picked up by I'm trying to empty my bag at the same time and doing a horrible job of it. Trying to be subtle, for the video. Not working, but I digress. So I had an interesting conversation with my students, which was part of a unit that we started on pressure and the desire to compete, competition in humans and whatnot, and the notions of success and failure. And I asked a question which loosely translates because, en français, are you willing to make sacrifices if it's going to guarantee you a success? And everybody in the classroom said yes. I went, wow. And what if that sacrifice is your mental health? And the majority kind of nodded, yep. So we had, I don't want to say it was a one-sided conversation, because this group, albeit chatty, is not the kind of group that will, raise their hand and start talking and participating. Many of them just sit and absorb. That's how I was able, that's how I was able to understand this group and how they function. So they all gave me nods, yep. And this, I don't want to say this realization, but through our kind of sort of conversation with their nodding and their yes and their no's, they made me realize something that's a bit sad, is that since my time in high school, which was 35 years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, nothing has really changed in regards to mental health. And I know some of you are going to say, but there are so many services. Yes, there are many services available. People are more aware of it. And there's I don't want to say a greater emphasis on mental health in schools. There is. But when it comes to the concepts of competitiveness and a skewed notion of how we define success, and is it okay or not to push students to put more importance and value on tests and exams. I know that there's a paradigm shift in regards to how we view exams, but there's still a lot of importance that is placed on exams in certain circles, and it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all since I was in high school. When I was in grade 10 and 11, there was very little concern about how we presented the content of a class, the work that needed to be done in class, the weight of certain things in comparison to the importance that should be placed on learning and the learning process, and how we perceive failure and how we deal with failure. That hasn't changed. There's talk about it, but in practice, I realized, my God, it's 2024, and they're still willing to sacrifice their mental health if it's going to guarantee them success or a victory. And I find that scary, sad, that we are still creating this environment where it's okay to suffer. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. There should be a greater emphasis on the idea of learning for the sake of learning, failing, and saying, okay, so you got 4 on 10. What do we need to do to fix that? But not to fix that so the person can get 10 on 10. But if the passing grade is 6 on 10, where can you get those 2 extra points? Because we're always trying to push them, I know, like, we shouldn't be aiming for mediocrity or for something average. But if we keep in mind that there are students who have certain strengths, certain weaknesses, they're better at one subject than the other, we shouldn't put that extra pressure on the student to aim for an ideal that cannot be reached in a reasonable way. So it was a very interesting talk that I had with them. Like I said, kind of sort of one-sided, but their body language spoke volumes. and for the most part, because there's always 4 or 5 students talking, muttering, whispering. For the most part, they were all attentive, as if they were trying to tell me, yeah, we get it, we're not happy with it, but we understand and we get it. And I kind of like that. I don't like monopolizing the conversation. I like when there's actual students talking. And some of the students I had last year were like that. There was this back and forth, and I loved it. And I think a lot of teachers like that. Show me a pulse. Like, do we have a pulse, children? Come on. Are we alive? Are we awake? And this group is not like that. Doesn't mean they're horrible. They're lovely individuals. They are lovely, lovely human beings. But yeah. Anyway, those are my thoughts this morning. If there are teachers out there, how do you explain success and failure to your students? Leave it in comments if you feel like it. All right, have a great day.